In the heart of suburban Ohio, there's a quiet neighborhood where the loudest sound is usually a lawnmower or the evening hum of crickets. Every house looks the same: white fences, trimmed yards, porch lights that come on right at dusk. But one of those homes hid a secret. For 24 years, beneath the floorboards, behind a wall no one knew existed, someone was trapped. This is the story of Evelyn Monroe, a young woman who disappeared in 1989. To her neighbors, she was gone forever, but she never left the house. Thomas Monroe was what people called a man of principle. He worked at the local factory for 30 years, never missed a shift, never raised his voice in public. When his wife died in a car crash, he became a single father to their only daughter, Evelyn. Neighbors admired him. They saw a man who took his daughter to church, packed her school lunches, and always kept his house spotless. But what no one saw was the control. Thomas decided who Evelyn could talk to, what she could wear, how long she could be outside. He said it was to keep her safe, and for most of her childhood, she believed him. By 17, Evelyn wanted more than the quiet, suffocating safety of her home. She loved helping people. She volunteered at a local nursing home, and her dream was to become a nurse. The day she got her acceptance letter from the University of Cincinnati, she cried. It was her ticket to freedom. But when Thomas saw that letter, his face changed. He didn't say congratulations. He said, "The world isn't safe for girls who think they know better." That night they argued, loud enough that a neighbor later remembered hearing raised voices and something shatter. It was the last sound anyone ever heard from Evelyn Monroe. The next morning, Thomas told police that Evelyn had run away. He said they'd fought about college and she left in anger. He even showed them a note, supposedly written by Evelyn, saying she needed time alone. But the handwriting wasn't hers. Still, there were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no broken locks, nothing suspicious. And back in 1989, police didn't always dig deep in cases like this, especially when the parents seemed respectable. The case was closed in weeks. And just like that, Evelyn Monroe became another name in the missing persons file. For the next 2 decades, Thomas stayed in that same house. He mowed the lawn every weekend, waved at neighbors, attended church every Sunday. People said, "That man is so strong. He never moved on." They didn't realize he didn't have to, because Evelyn was still there. In the months after she disappeared, Thomas had hired a contractor, just one man, to seal off an old storm shelter. The man never saw what was inside. He just poured concrete and left. Thomas finished the rest himself. Behind the new basement wall was a small steel door, hidden, soundproofed, and locked from the outside. Above ground, Thomas Monroe lived a life of routine and respectability. Below ground, his daughter lived in a space smaller than a bedroom. No windows, a single bulb, and a cot. He told her the outside world was gone, that there had been riots, disease, collapse. He said staying hidden was for her own protection. Over time, the line between fear and obedience blurred. She learned not to cry, not to ask questions, not to resist. And for the next 24 years, that house held 2 worlds, one where neighbors waved politely, and another where time stood still. In 2013, everything changed. Thomas, now in his 70s, suffered a stroke. He was moved into a nursing home, and for the first time in decades, the Monroe house sat empty. A local contractor named Luis Ortega bought the property at auction. He planned to remodel it and rent it out. While inspecting the basement, Luis noticed something odd. One wall looked newer than the others. When he tapped it, it echoed, hollow. He thought maybe there was old plumbing behind it. But when his team started to break through, dust filled the air, and they found metal. A steel door, bolted shut. They unlatched it, and what they saw made them freeze. Inside, crouched in the corner, was a woman, pale, trembling, shielding her eyes from the flashlight. After a moment, she whispered, "Please don't hurt me." Police arrived within minutes. The woman identified herself as Evelyn Monroe. At first, they didn't believe her. She looked decades older than her age, malnourished and disoriented. But fingerprints confirmed it. Evelyn had been trapped in that basement since 1989, just one floor below where her father had eaten breakfast every morning. Officers found her journals, meticulous notes written over the years, detailing rules, punishments, and her father's daily visits. He called it guidance. She called it the cellar. Investigators later discovered receipts for concrete, steel doors, and soundproof materials, all purchased by Thomas the same year Evelyn vanished. The perfect father had engineered her prison by hand. When detectives confronted Thomas Monroe at the care facility, he didn't deny anything. He simply said, "She was safe with me." The world would have destroyed her. Psychiatrists described him as suffering from delusional narcissism, convinced that isolation was love and control was protection. In 2014, Thomas Monroe was charged with kidnapping and unlawful imprisonment. The evidence was undeniable: journals, reinforced walls, forged notes. During the trial, Evelyn testified softly. She told the jury she wasn't angry, just relieved it was over. The courtroom was silent when she said, "I stopped hoping he'd let me go. I only hoped he'd stop coming." After 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict, guilty on all counts. Thomas Monroe was sentenced to life in prison. He died 3 years later behind bars. Evelyn Monroe spent months in a rehabilitation center, learning to live again. Sunlight hurt her eyes at first. Noise startled her. She hadn't seen another human face, besides her father's, in over 2 decades. But slowly, she began rebuilding her life. She joined a survivors support group, learned to drive, and started volunteering again, this time helping victims of trauma. She never returned to the old neighborhood. In 2015, the Monroe house was demolished. The lot remains empty, just grass, a few wildflowers, and silence. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it lives right under our feet, hidden by trust, silence, and fear. Evelyn Monroe's story reminds us that control, no matter how it's disguised, is never love, and that sometimes the darkest prisons have no bars.